Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the Sign and Sling podcast. It's your host, Adam Tatunji, back at you guys again with another episode. And today I am sitting with my man, Jason. Jason, thank you so much for hopping on the show today.
Yeah, no worries, Adam. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too, man. So for everybody that's listening, so Jason's the director of IT over at a pharmaceutical manufacturer. How would you explain it? Like as much as I try to learn about
So,
it, and I know it's a little bit in like the mix of like pharmaceutical manufacturing, but it also isn't. So
yeah, it's Currax Pharmaceuticals. It's we're not so we're not a manufacturing. We more outsource the manufacturing to two different factories we've got going on. Our manufacturing sites we've got going on. So we're more of a sales, marketing, clinical research pharmaceutical company.
nice.
Yeah.
So kind of like tell us more about yourself in terms of like just your background, extensive, what got you into the pharmaceutical space, and then we'll kind of start from there.
So, background wise, from an IT perspective, I started adult training back in the late 90s, then shifted over into Deloitte, doing IT infrastructure,
Mm,
basically handling all the um, Microsoft stack at Deloitte. I was the team lead over there, and eventually shifted into Unum, which is group life insurance or insurance company. Basically handles almost all the insurance for a lot of the Fortune 500 companies.
hmm.
Um, and did some of the same basically in the Microsoft stack. And then shifted. I was there for 15 years. Um, and so with email and communications collaborations, I ended up being the director of communications collaborations over there, and so had all of the Microsoft stack as well. A lot of infrastructure, a lot of working with other departments, legal, HR, and then security and such. So basically, had a large. Most of my career was in large companies or corporations with large IT departments. And I shifted over into Currax that was a little bit more of a startup at the time. And we're
Mm.
we're still we're stable at this point, but it was a startup. And that the reason why I shifted into Currax was not necessarily for the pharmaceutical aspect of it. Although I did like shifting from education to financial to insurance to pharma. I have no problem going different verticals. I enjoy learning new things and going, but part of the learning new things was learning learning how to handle an entire IT org by myself, right? I wanted to get my hands in all of it and then be able to hook into the business areas and help them grow from a technology perspective. So
Very cool. So what are the kind of common challenges that you see organizations in your space facing these days when it comes to cybersecurity?
you know what? It's not that different from other verticals. Um, we're dealing with a lot of uh, ransomware attacks and stuff. Phishing is always the one of the first initial steps into it, and then a lot of social engineering and a lot of attacks on the end users. Um, MFA is a huge thing for us, honestly, to take care of a lot of it. But um, the I will say the attackers are getting a lot more, not better necessarily, but quicker with the onset of AI.
Mm,
And I think this is the biggest thing that's happening right now because they have AI in their toolkit now, just like we have AI in our toolkits, right? They can iterate faster. So we're seeing a lot more advanced um, phishing, and I don't want to just say phishing, but in more advanced attacks where the attacks are a little bit more refined, but
mhm.
then whereas in previous states you would see the attack, and then you would see repetitions of that same attack over and over again from other places, or them continuously trying that same attack. Now it's here's that attack, and then here's another iteration of the attack, but then they'll bring in AI and use it as a tool, and all of a sudden that attack has become a little bit more. They're evolving quicker. So
Mm.
their attacks are moving quicker because they can take advantage of the AI tools that are out there.
AI is like a huge conversation I've been having on many of these episodes because it's like, same tools we use, they get to use too. So it's like just as
Yep.
fast as you think you're going, they're also going at the same speed, if not faster. Uh,
Faster because they have a direct purpose, right?
yeah,
Some of us, we're trying to figure out how to use AI and what's the best use cases for AI to make money.
yeah,
They have one goal. They're getting our money, right?
yeah,
And they're getting our data. So they know what they need to use AI for. Whereas we're still trying to identify the right use cases for it. They already have their use case, right?
for sure, for sure. So, I'm not sure how it is set up with you guys, but with the rise of kind of like remote work, like what sort of strategies do you kind of recommend for companies to use on just making sure that their security remains intact?
From a remote workforce, we've actually been growing. So I worked at Unum 15 years remote.
Mm,
Um, one of the key things that we had initially was a small group of remote workers, right? And because of that, we were able to have a personalized router specific to those individual remote workers. Nowadays, everybody's a remote worker, and you can't be throwing out physical hardware all over the place. So I think the best approach from a remote worker protection perspective is a zero trust network. ZTNA that sucker, and get them connected to your network in a way that you don't trust where they're coming from. So you forcibly trust that network before they get in.
mm,
But ZTNs are the way to handle a remote workforce from a access to your data at this point. And there's a bunch of players out there for that. Um, Currax, we're looking into a few, trying to take advantage of it. We don't have as big of a remote workforce now, but we keep hiring people remotely too, so it's getting there.
for sure. So, how do you kind of also see like technologies, like since we did bring up AI, aside from just the negative side of it, but how else do you see it also impacting overall cybersecurity as a whole?
Oh, I mean, I think they're using the tools, and then I think we can use the tools right back at them. And some of the larger companies at this point in time, I'm a little bit dependent on the AI companies and some of the larger companies, Microsoft in particular, um, incorporating AI into their tools,
Mm,
so that into their security tools, so that we can have that. Doing it homegrown again. Currex is not a huge. We're not a huge company, right? So we don't have we don't have billions of dollars to invest in AI research on tools and how we can protect ourselves. But taking advantage of some of the Microsoft tools that are out there, or some of the um, security providers like Synix Link, sorry, um, allow us to utilize the AI power. But analyzing logs, analyzing audit logs, sign-in logs, anything like that we can do. And I will say I have grabbed several security logs, several audit logs, especially when there's any kind of concern, and thrown them into AI. But learning on the logs and being able to parse those quicker than humans
mm,
is huge.
for sure. No, I think it's such an interesting world because like it's never ending. So much back and forth, and you just got to stay ahead as much as you can.
27 years into it, man. There's never been a year that I didn't learn something new.
or
I
feel
mean,
like
and I don't foresee that stopping ever.
yeah, yeah. So, how do you kind of personally approach the balance between security measures and like making sure your users are also staying, productive and not interrupting their workflow or, anything?
Isn't that the question, right? I mean, that's always the toughest challenge of any technology is how do we stay on the cutting edge or bleeding edge, so that the business can do the things it needs to do, but then also prevent them from stumbling over that technology. Because having technology fade off into the background, like you and I talking right here.
Hmm.
So you and I are talking as if we're in the same room, right?
Yeah.
The fact that we're um, a vast distance away from each other doesn't matter. Uh, that said, having that having that technology from a security perspective, where I'm forcing a user to, anytime they're out of the country or anytime they're traveling, open up their phone to do an MFA to get access to Outlook, whereas before they were just able to open up their phone and get access to their email. Um, it's one of those things that the business users, and as these generations pipe through, um, business users, the millennials, the Gen Zs, the Gen Xers are just, we'll just go with whatever technology we have, but they're it's not as hard now as it was when I first started.
To do
Because
what?
when you start implementing security measures now, um, it's a little bit more understandable because these my business users are MFAing for their bank, right? I mean, how often do you use a consumer application that you're not using MFA when you're dealing with financial data? So they come in and we let them know that our data is just as important as their financial data, and some of that security requirements that they have to go through that seem like hoops that they had to jump through are a little bit more understandable today than previous. And then things are getting smoother, right? You look at MFA, text message MFA, and MFA in the past compared to now with MS Authenticator, Google Authenticator, the Okta. These things are a lot more seamless for the end users.
Yeah. And then, can you kind of, I guess, like tap into a little bit more on just proactive threat hunting and just, making sure you're set up properly in case a hack does occur? What is it that you got to do? This, that kind of stuff.
Well, from a that's why we have socks,
Mhm.
right? And and I have so I'll depend on my security operations center, and then I back it up with I use Admin Droid, but a second auditing, logging, alerting utility as well. So I'm paying somebody to look through the logs, and larger companies can have that internally. Yay. But I'm paying somebody to look through those logs, a human, to get the alerts, to see the alerts, to recognize the right ones, and then bring me in as needed, right? And then I'll get those alerts to on the from my own applications, um, and I'll go through them as well. And a lot of that is just making sure that my SOC and the alerts are actually being prioritized correctly. But without a SOC, I don't I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I was really worried. Um, well, I'm always worried. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if it wasn't for if I didn't have a SOC that was monitoring and would call me if things went bad, if that makes sense. So how do I prep for that, or how am I ready for that? I have SOC. I have a physical piece of paper that has all my contacts for all my security people and all the business owners, where I can contact them directly if I don't have access to my computer. Um, and then I have a team that I trust around me.
So you're a big like proponent on having external support outside of just what you have inside, like in house.
Well, and part of that, yeah, yes, but part of that is because I have a small IT org, right? Um, we can't do as much as as what I can pay an external security team to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I've got too many other things I'm going to focus on. I've got I've got conference rooms to set up, right? I've got audits to take care of. I've got um, quality assurance to make sure that my quality department's doing right, and I've got data ops that need SQL servers updated and patches and stuff. So I can't focus on the external threats all the time, whereas versus paying somebody to do that for me. And that is a service that I need a dedicated resource for. And
Yeah,
I
for
don't
sure.
have a dedicated resource internally. So yeah, I'm a big fan um, of having a dedicated option for that. And for Currax, that is definitely
The thing that you guys
a
do.
third party vendor. Yeah.
So, in terms of like budgeting and security and implementing like the right solutions, and then should we do it with a vendor? Should we not? Like, what thinking process do you follow to make sure it kind of makes sense? Like, is there like a formula that people could use?
Well, I'm a my mantra is simplify, consolidate, automate, right? Um, and and the simplification comes into what are the basic things you need to function with, right? Simplify it down to those core requirements, and then everything else is add-on. And then with all the other add-ons, consolidating those as much as possible. In other words, if I've got a cloud tool, uh, M365 is a perfect example, right? If I've got a cloud tool that is able to do word processing, spreadsheets, and PowerPoints, but is also handling my Active Directory and can do SAML-based SSO, and and I can use it for security as well. I'm going to take advantage of that and not necessarily buy something else I'm not going to buy Google Docs at the same time as I'm using M365.
Hmm,
So if I've got multiple vendors, I'm going to uh, I'm going to try to squeeze everything out of a vendor that I can before I go to another vendor to get a feature.
I see.
Um, and then automate anything you can automate and anything you can document. So documentation is the underlying level of all of it, but automate anything that is repetitive and redundant. And anything repetitive and redundant like that, that's where AI has actually been coming in and being hugely effective for us. Uh, but then documenting it all. I want to be at a place where when I win the lottery, and I'd have to play the lottery to win it, and I don't play. But should I win the lottery and leave Currax, my hope is that my predecessor or my post-decessor, the person who comes in after me, will be able to come in and see all of the stuff that we've done because I've written it down. I've saved it off. We know what these processes do. And when something breaks in the future, because we're doing something right now, and a year from now, I don't know what I did now. I want to be able to go back from a year from now and look at documentations, what we did, and realize that, oh, that's why we did that. That's what broke. This is how I can fix it rather than spending 2 days trying to figure it out, where I can look at a document in 5 minutes. So documenting, automating, consolidating, simplifying.
Nice. I love it. So there is a process to what you do. So it's not just like,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
because like I've always done it because I've met some IT directors, CTOs kind of who kind of like, I want to say they do things on the fly. I don't want to say that. Obviously, you can't do that being a
No,
but
honestly, there is a decent amount that do. I Yeah, and you'll inherit anarchy at times, and there'll be some chaos when you come into an org like that. There are some a decent amount of people who are doing things on the fly.
Yeah. Or they might budget things on the fly, just kind of.
Definitely budget things
Yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah. That's kind of why I wanted to ask you that question to see, you know. Well, I appreciate your time on here today. So, what kind of like what final advice would you kind of give to like aspiring, security professionals that are looking to grow in their career?
Uh, don't just focus on security.
Okay.
And I mean, from my perspective, if you're just starting out in cybersecurity and you want to go down that path, um, I would suggest to you that knowing every aspect of the environment matters. Because yeah, you can know exactly how that server handles and this server handles and how this service interoperates with that service. But then when they get into that laptop and you don't know how that laptop is integrated into your systems, then there's a hole in your knowledge that you have no clue of. Don't hesitate getting in and working at a help desk. Don't hesitate in learning how the network works, or and I'm talking about cabling, right? Learn physical security, learn digital security, learn it all. Um, there is no area of focus that you would not benefit from having the experience during an event, because during an event it's all broken. It's all broken. And yes, you can audit, and yes, you're logging everything that you're doing during the time, but having that experience on what a network, what's happening in the network, and understanding that that's where your problem is much better than not knowing what's going on in the network and then taking 2, 3 days to figure out that that's where your problem is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
There's no level or there's no topic that doesn't matter when it comes to an incident.
I see. No, for sure. Well, I appreciate your time on the podcast here today, Jason. Where can people find you if they want to look you up?
Oh, I'm on LinkedIn. Um, it's LinkedIn JDR writing, but Jason Richardson on LinkedIn. That's probably the best route. I'm assuming we can have a link in the podcast notes too. So
Yeah, yeah, we'll
uh,
put them down there. I'll call you as the guy with the coolest camera. I remember
no,
your
yeah,
camera in the office was so dope.
yeah, which I am actually not at right now. Of course, today is the day I'm working from home, but yeah, the camera in the office is pretty sweet.
No, I love it. I love it. Okay, well, I appreciate you, Jason. And for everybody that's watching, we thank you so much for tuning in. If you guys enjoyed, please remember to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit Jason up for more information if you want to ask him some more questions. And we'll see you guys in the next episode.